Hey Brenda, how are you?
Good.
Well, welcome to Indispensable Appraisers podcast. Today is a very, very special guest, my wife. So, why would I have my wife on the podcast? Well, guess what? She's an appraiser and she has some interesting and fantastic ideas about our industry. So, Brenda, welcome.
Thanks, Jeff. Husband Jeff.
Aw,
Been a few years we've worked together, huh?
a few months.
Yeah, a little
Hey,
while.
I'll try not to talk over each other. Where in our valuation industry, where are we winning at? What are we doing a good job at?
Not much, Jeff. Hate to say it. In all seriousness, you and I both know we've been in this industry a long time. And I would say that this is one of its lowest points. And partially, we're not very different from a lot of professional industries right now, just relative to demographics and population. We're all getting a little older. And with that population shift and changes, young people have a different outlook on life and their work ethic and what's going on. And I think that whether it's our profession or other professions, sometimes maybe those of us that are still around haven't done what we needed to do to entice those younger people in. So we're just kind of doing the same old. So there's not a lot of that's working right. I think the stuff that is working right is those of us in the profession are highly ethical people, really well trained, know more about real estate than most people do. And I think we have to remember too that appraisers, you know, I think a lot of times people think appraiser, they don't understand our profession and they think with it, the only appraisers out there are people that appraise houses because that's what they know. But the training that appraisers get and the job capabilities for them, and they're in all sorts of corporate positions and others, is pretty wide. So, what are we winning at? It's probably not as bad as sometimes we hear. We talk to a lot of appraisers, you and I, all the time. But there's one thing I know for sure that we are winning at when we look at just the kind of standard fee appraisers, those that are in their profession, and that's we have a new CEO at the Appraisal Institute. And sometimes turning over a new leaf is really, really important. And Cindy Chase has been brought in. She's a breath of fresh air. She's doing exactly what you would expect a really cool CEO to do, and that is go out and talk to the people. She's shaking hands and kissing babies, and she's listening. And from what I understand, she's taking it in. She's bringing it back to her board, and I think we're going to see some cool changes. I think she can open up some stuff.
So you touched upon Cindy Chance. What can the Appraisal Institute do tangibly?
They got to revamp their education. They got to, they got to quit doing things the same old way that they've always done it.
You mean use PAP every 2 years? Come on, that's
Yeah,
nonsense.
right. Jeez. There isn't any professional or, organization that has continuing education that isn't going to have complaints about it. You got to get your credits, you got to do that sort of stuff. But I think Cindy, with her educational background, can bring some excitement, bring some things that we really want to learn, some things we need to learn, and some things that the users of our services have an expectation and they deserve to know that we can bring to the table to help them solve the problems that they have. At the end, appraisers need to be more than a compliance check, and we can be. But maybe we didn't have enough of a voice before. Maybe we didn't know which products that we could offer, and we've had handcuffs on. I always like to compare us to the accounting profession. Go to the accountant's website and see all of the various products that they brought out. We need more products to sell. We're a retail store with one rug, and we need more rugs to sell. And there's lots of ways for us to do it. It doesn't have to be, oh, we can't do that. We can't get it through this rules, regulations, the foundation, whatever it is. Somebody just has to say, nope, we can get this done and cut through the crap and get it done.
So we should take a chance on Cindy Chance. So That's good.
I think I've already taken a chance on her, and I think everybody else needs to too.
Okay, and you already touched upon a couple issues. What other issues is the industry struggling with besides the usual suspects? You know, we know about the aging population, not getting the young folks. What else is a challenge that may not be super obvious or known?
Um, let's look at the personality side. The appraisers were attracted to this profession for a couple of reasons. I think that they liked the professional part of it. They liked knowing they could go into a career and create a long career that was well respected. Respect is a big deal. And I think that some of that respect got lost. And I think the reason the respect got lost was because appraisers lost their voice. And when various things happened in the market, there was a downturn in the market. We had the big crash. We had the 2005, 6, 7, 8 stuff. And if appraisers, in the press or anyone else wanted to put a blame somewhere, the appraisers took it. Like, oh, it's the appraiser's fault. It's the appraiser's fault. They were, creating values that weren't realistic. And appraisers' personalities are a little more shy. They're a little more reserved. Give them a DISC profile test, and that's where you're going to see. So we're not going to change that. That's okay. But there needs to be maybe a way, and this goes back to the education. Let's teach them how to be business people as well as how to be ethical, how to be smart, how to manage and do real estate, and get some real world stuff in there. I think we're teaching a lot of the stuff from the 1930s, certainly from the 1950s, 60s, and I can swear certainly from the 1980s when I was trained. It's unbelievable that we're still doing things the same way. We must stay up with what's going on in the world. Technology alone. So, and it's going to come back to curriculum. What can the Appraisal Institute do? Well, they were the grandparents of all of the education. If you got an MAI designation or an SRA designation, RM designation from the Appraisal Institute, that was the end all and be all. That was it. That was your diploma. You went to Harvard. But they kind of let that go. They let it drop. And, they always say it's easier to build a reputation from scratch sometimes than it is to regain one you've lost. I don't think it's too late, but I think it's going to take a total rebranding. And I think it's going to take some energy behind it to make it so.
So where do we go from here? You mentioned a lot of different topics, a lot of it being education. So where would that start? Would it be more of a repositioning of a mindset through education?
I think so. Let me give you an example. For instance, what we've done because, this profession has been good to both of us, right? And so 20 years ago, we got into the technology side, bringing software to appraisers. We were solving a problem that we had in our own company, which was we needed to be able to produce appraisal reports quicker, and we developed Datacom followed by Edge so that we could get reporting out to the fee appraisers. So it opened up into the world of technology for us. And then, in more recent years where we brought out UConnect. And it's easy to throw stones. Like my mama always taught me, people that live in glass houses shouldn't throw stones, right? Well, we can be critical all we want, but it's like blowing smoke out into the air. It's when you're going to do something about it. So, I'm really proud of the fact that our give back was creating FIVA, Financial Institution Valuation Advisors, because we saw a hole in the market where those people weren't being supported. That's a very unique group subset of the appraisal profession where, and frankly, probably, I don't know, Jeff, do you have any idea what percentage of the work that is done by the appraisal profession comes from the financial institutions in this country?
I was going to guess 60%. You mean of a typical fee appraiser for commercial?
Yeah.
Your total
Or
revenue,
residential.
50, 70% of the revenue?
I would say that of all revenue that is generated from the industry, I would say, how we like to say, oh, bank work.
Right.
My guess is it probably is 80%. You got condemnation work, you're working inside of a corporation and stuff like that. And yet those bankers, those valuation professionals in the bank weren't really being supported. So, as my give back to what gave me an incredible career, FIBA came out. And it's been incredibly interesting to see that there's a niche there to bring appraisers together and listen to them and what they need and what they want. And they want the same thing everybody else wants. They want to be respected. They want to be paid well for what they do, and they want to have a little bit of fun. And I think if we can bring more fun into it, we can attract more young people. Young people want to make money, but they want to have a good life too. And if go back to what we're winning at, a lot of the reason that people got into appraising was because they felt that they could almost write their own career. They could kind of work their own hours when they wanted to. They didn't necessarily have to work weekends and nights, the choice. I'm going to go be a real estate broker. I'm going to go be a real estate appraiser. And that was something that was really appealing. That's still appealing. And so I don't know. I think that the challenge is there because we have an aging population inside of the industry. And so if we can attract through young education, we can take, the people that are a little older and the few that are the rock stars that are out there that, care a lot about getting this done. And they care about having accuracy in our banking system so that people can rely on the loans that are being made. I mean, this is a big deal for our entire economy. And so if we can uphold and bring that confidence level back to the people that are already here and send that message out into the universities, and start attracting those people and mash them together like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I don't want just a plain peanut butter sandwich. I don't want a plain jelly sandwich. But peanut butter and jelly takes the brain power and the years of experience of the older people that are in the profession, been doing it for 20 plus years, and then bring in the enthusiasm and the need to learn and the ability to just, technology isn't a thing. It's just the way you do stuff. Mesh those two together in a great peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Number one, I think if somebody wanted to start firms like that, they can make an awful lot of money and they can do a great deal of good to stabilize and make sure that the loans that are being made in this country are valid. You can do them with confidence.
So maybe the PBJ would be business coaching as opposed to technicians, where fee appraisers can realize that the relationship with one of their largest clients, which are chief appraisers, and not say bank work, that they could actually come together. Again, you mentioned that, and I wrote a lot of blogs about this and other podcasts where there isn't a voice of valuation out there in the world. There's very few people that do anything that gives a voice to it. And I get that appraisers are typically shy, introverted. I'm somewhat that way. You are not. But I think it's damaging our industry by not getting our voice out, by not talking to the world of what the industry is. And yes, I've seen AI, Appraisal Institute has done a couple of videos, which is really cool, showing the life and times of, a career. But the relationship between the communication between chief appraisers and fee appraisers, I think that's eroding as well. It's just either they're too busy, they don't connect, they don't talk, and they really should value their bank clients and give them great service and not say bank work, and really improve that relationship. And
I think so, but I think it's deeper than that, Jeff. I think that that'll certainly work. I don't know what the typical appraisal firm size is anymore. My guess is it's somewhere around 3 to 5 people still. We've seen a big switch so that many of those firms are losing market share to all the national firms, right? The national firms have the exact same problem, right? That everybody else has to a degree. So somebody asked me the other day, they said, well, Brenda, if this idea is so great of having the older people and then the younger people, isn't that what you have in the national firms right now? And my answer is no, we don't, because we have a mentality in those firms of, The older people are going, well, this is the way I always did it. And I've earned my stripes now. And so you come up and do it the way I did it. No, 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 no. So if there's any business sense that needs to be taught, I don't think you're going to get those people to change their stripes. So what you need to do is to bring the people together that have some interest, but I think it's almost in reverse. You got to get the young people that want to start and grow their career, give them that business training, have them be in the leadership position. And they're the ones that are hiring and bringing in the older folks to augment what they need inside of their organizations. So I don't think it's the older people that you're going to change. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make any sense?
It does make sense. And it would be a question, if you were starting an appraisal company today, what would you do differently that most fee appraisers don't do?
First of all, I would absolutely make sure that I was really well trained as a salesperson, that I understood what good, solid sales, ethical sales was all about, because nothing happens till somebody sells something. And sales can be a bad word. I remember back in my early career, I certainly hated the word sales and professionals. We name it all sorts of funny things. We call it biz dev and account executive, all sorts of things to get away from the word sales. Bottom line, I know for certain that I love to buy something from someone that is educated and has my best interest at heart. So that's why I say, if I couldn't go start this company, well, maybe I could, because I'm kind of crazy, but it's going to take a younger person who wants to build an organization, and they're going to build it around younger talent, smart, young, technically savvy talent. And then they're the ones that are going to hire and bring in the knowledge that they need. It's kind of like going to Yoda, right? So they're going to go find their Yodas and hire their Yodas so they get what they need. And those young people need the brain power and the wisdom that came with all of those years that those appraisers put in. Because remember, art, science, we've been taught that for what, 30 years. There's a science to appraising, and then there's the art. And in the minds of those that have been doing it for 20 plus years, 30 years in some cases, you got to unlock that. But they're not going to be the ones that are going to, carry this profession forward.
Yeah, I do agree that a company starting today really should be a tech company that happens to offer valuation services, because if they're working in a remote situation, to have the things that most entrepreneurial companies have, playbooks, processes, asynchronous videos to bring people up to speed, not say, here's an old appraisal, figure it out like we were trained. That stylization is really attractive to younger people. So it's not just putting them together, it's giving them the tools, the software, the technology, the process that goes along with it, that also builds the culture for them to feel like they're part of something, which I don't think that exists for a lot of
I think
appraisal.
you're exactly right, Jeff. Let's take it a little further. Let's
You say that
sort of
again?
rip that word out, technology. Let's rip that out and just say business. Let's say business, because to the younger people today, I don't think that they maybe necessarily are going to separate it. What they need to become is business savvy, whatever that takes to run a good business. So you're going to have sales, you're going to have marketing, you're going to have operations, and of course, you're going to have technology. So, we know sales has to lead everything. There's no doubt about it. You can go found a company, whether it's an appraisal company, a tech company, a manufacturing company, an engineering company. Sales is number one, because again, nothing happens till someone sells something. But I think the big piece, and maybe this is where Cindy can help, it brings some business education classes and education into the Appraisal Institute. Don't just teach the craft of this is how we appraise, the tactical part, right? That's a word that I hear you use a lot of times. Let's teach more than just the technical things that we need to do. It's kind of like when you go to school, right? You got certain curriculum you have to learn, then you go out in the real world, and that's where you get your real education. Why does it have to be that way? Why can't you get some taste of the real world coming from thought leaders that are brought in to teach within, the confines of the Appraisal Institute. And then you need the support of the Appraisal Institute to open up and say, hey, somebody's got an idea. Why can't we do XYZ? Why can't I deliver this product? Let's call it an evaluation. Let's call it this. Let's call it a consulting, whatever we want to do. And then have the confidence and trust that first and foremost, anyone that comes into the profession, let's make the assumption that they're ethical. Let's make the assumption that they're honest people and they want to do a good job, and take the handcuffs off them and let them do that. Don't just say you can only write this for the appraisal report. Because one thing I think you and I both learned is there's a huge disconnect in what the client wants. To your point earlier, can we at least talk to the clients? If 80% or 70% of the industry is banks talking to appraisers, working with them, vendors, appraisers, clients, banks. And what do we hear all the time? Banks do not want gigantic appraisal reports. They don't really care what font you're using and all that sort of, if it's readable and concise and you deliver that and you're talking to them, that's what they want. There's not an appraiser out there doing it. So the whole report writing part has to be changed. And it can change in a couple of ways. It can be a more conservation, how do I say that? A conversational way. It can be bullet points, but the kind of way we're still doing it and throwing all that stuff, every single person calls it this, filler. Why do we have all that filler in the report? Nobody reads it. They haven't read it in 25 years. And everybody just that's the elephant in the room that nobody talks about. Let's change up those appraisal reports. Let's give people what they need. Let's get them, like you said, get them talking to each other. Customer, vendor, what do we want? What kind of product can we go out there and deliver, and then deliver it?
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah, not really.
I'd have
What
to
are we
say,
having for dinner tonight? Are you going shopping on the way home?
I was going to say, this is the best interview ever.
You have to say that, otherwise,
What are we having for dinner?
I thought it was your turn tonight.
Oh, then it's going to be pizza. Well, Brenda, thank you for joining me on Indispensable Appraisers.
Mwah.
Ciao.